Charlotte Soccer Show. John Hayes, Danny Brams. We are here for a special live episode. It is Wednesday morning, November 8th, just after 10 a.m. Eastern. And Danny Brams, we learned a short while ago that Christian Lattanzio and Charlotte FC have officially parted ways. I cannot wait to get your reaction to this. I cannot wait to hear from the Tifos, our tremendous friends of the show, in the comment section. I appreciate y'all for hanging out here to start the show. We'll get to your comments here quickly as well. But first, what I wanted to do on the show is officially share the statement from the club. We would like to thank Christian and Andy for their time at the club, said owner David Tepper. They helped guide us through the last 18 months, and we are all appreciative of their contributions to Charlotte FC. A thorough and comprehensive search for the club's next head coach will begin immediately, said Charlotte FC sporting director Zoran Krneta. Out of respect to all prospective candidates, we will not have further comment at this time. Quote, we undertook an off-season evaluation of our organization, and we're confident this move is in the best interest of the club for 2024 and beyond, said tremendous friend of the show, Charlotte FC president Joe LeBou. He went on to say, quote, our club will continue to be ambitious and strive to progress both on and off the pitch. Danny Brams, it's not a statement. It doesn't feel emotional. It doesn't feel touchy-feely. It feels like a business decision on this Wednesday morning. Danny, first, I want to get your reaction to it. And do you have any more information about when this firing and this sacking, when this decision was made?
He's sacked, baby. They sacked his ass. And it's like Tupac Shakur said, it's nothing personal. It's strictly business, and it is what it is. And so we woke up to this news, John, and we were like, we got to get on the air. We got to see what the Tifos are thinking. Level Up Luke wants a beer shower ASAP. Crown Breakdown says 100% business from the club. Shout out to you, Maxwell. Thanks for being in. Bridget McCall, to be honest, she doesn't know how she feels. We're all trying to figure it out. And then we can talk about this a little later. Ollie in. That's a big no for me, but we can get to that in a second. Like you said, we got to sort of we got to process this first. So I got to give a huge shout out to the one and only Carol Walton, Nay Rogers, who has been doing some great reporting on the Charlotte Ledger. She busted this out early as soon as the news became official. It's 10 a.m. right now. This news became official like around 8:45, 9 a.m. So we're within the hour here. But this is a great quote to get within an hour of the news breaking from Carol. She says, a source tells us that Christian had sort of met his capacity. This decision was about 24 and beyond. And I think that makes all the sense. It's like, yes, we got to the playoffs. And I made the case in our season review that I was happy enough with that. But ultimately, we had no chance to win in the playoffs. And you can't, sometimes you got to get to the next level. A head needs to roll. And I've got some theories about why the head rolled today. But it makes sense. The other thing I want to point out from Carol, give me one more second before I throw it back to you, Johnny, is that she says the decision to part ways with Lattanzio was made late Tuesday afternoon after David Tepper met with Joe LeBou and sporting director Zoran Krneta. Lattanzio was made aware of it around Wednesday morning. He woke up raring to go, ready for a great day. Hey, it's Tuesday. Let's get to work. Not so much. You're gone. So that tells me, though, what I want to get into, and I want to ask you is this an impulsive, rash decision being made by Tepper Sports Entertainment Group? Or is this something that had been brewing? Is this a decision they made and just finally flipped the switch, pulled the trigger? I'm wondering about where you think the timing of all this actually played out behind the scenes based on the reporting we know.
Well, I think we should go back to the statement to answer this question. And the reason why is because it was a bit of a nothing burger from David Tepper. It was thanks for your contributions and see you never. Zoran Krneta kind of alluded to the fact that he was going to start the search for the next manager, but it was Joe LeBou who actually gave us a little bit of information here to answer that question. He said, again, and this is at the bottom of the screen, quote, Joe LeBou, he said, we undertook an off-season evaluation of our organization, and we're confident this moves in the best interest of the club for 2024 and beyond. What does that mean to me, Danny Brams? It means that after the season was over, the team took its time. They didn't even have discussions until
Right.
that blowout loss at New York Red Bulls in the playoff play-in game. And I think ultimately we talked after that loss about how, and I said specifically, it felt like Charlotte FC didn't even make the playoffs. It felt like we didn't really get a chance at whatever, what other clubs were doing. For instance, last night, Tuesday night, Atlanta United at home against Columbus Crew, a massive win.
They pasted an MLS Cup favorite because they were at home, and they found a way to get done what they needed to do in an important game.
Yes, exactly. And I think you see that last night and you ask yourself, man, Charlotte, it doesn't feel like we were ever a part of that. So I think that there's been deafening silence coming from Atrium Health Performance Park since that loss against New York.
Because they were in the lab. They were figuring out which move they wanted to make.
Yes, and ultimately this week the decision was made that Christian Lattanzio will no longer be manager for Charlotte FC. And I just want to make a quick point here. I don't think that I'm ever in a position to celebrate someone losing their job, right? That's not what I think I'm here to do. But I think ultimately what this decision does is it confirms to me that this club is operating in a way that really shows the commitment to excellence, and how ninth place play-in the playoff match is nice, but ultimately this club has higher and loftier goals. And with one of the best fan bases in MLS, 2023 was just not good enough, and it has to get better, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, my mom, we work in college football in our professional lives, and I'm thinking just this quote has been sort of in my face all week of Brian Kelly, the LSU football coach, who took his team. They have a Heisman candidate. They're one of the top teams in the nation. He took his team. They're good. They're a really good team. Took them to Alabama for a showdown game, lost by 2 touchdowns. And he told his team after the game, this speech kind of went semi-viral that I was like watching in my circles. I don't know if anyone else has seen it, but he said, "You guys played good tonight. You guys played really good tonight, but good is not good enough." And that's what this move is for Charlotte FC. Good is not good enough. Just making the playoffs is not good enough. Shout out Hub Likes, one of the original TIFOs, who says this is one of his top 3 happiest moments as a CLT FC fan. And I got to say, it's like you, Johnny. We're not celebrating Christian Lattanzio losing his job. That's not what the celebration is. The celebration is a new day for our club that we love. And just, it's not personal about this man. It's about the fact that many people didn't think he was the right one to take this club to the next level. And that sentiment obviously shared inside the building as well. I've got my I can throw out hot takes and get conspiracy brain on it a little bit and be like, well, the Panthers just got embarrassed. They're 1-7 on the season or something like that. And, a head needed a role, and David Tepper just woke up grouchy because his NFL team sucks, needed to fire somebody, and didn't want to fire. He couldn't fire Frank Reich, but Christian Lattanzio's head was a head that could roll. They'd been thinking about it anyway. Might as well just, there's part of me that thinks it was like a rash, impulsive decision, but I do think that you are correct in your analysis of like the actual story is a measured, concerned evaluation, a thought of, do we want to do this? It's actually the opposite of a rash move. And the rash move would have been to he can't get on the plane back to New Jersey, back from New Jersey. That was not the move. These guys take their time and they make the move. And ultimately, I was surprised it happened. They took so long that I thought it wasn't going to happen. That's my excuse. That's my
you and I were with some friends last week on Friday, and we were talking about whether Christian Lattanzio was going to be retained as Charlotte FC manager. And you and I both said emphatically, yes, it feels like that too much time has gone by. And some decisions were being made about the roster, including, moving on from someone like Derek Jones, allowing him to head into free agency. Justin Meram, a player that was identified as somebody that potentially could sign a new contract. And I think Christian Lattanzio and Justin Meram have a very, very good relationship. So it just felt to me like the decisions that were being made, Danny, over the last 10 days really led to Christian Lattanzio remaining as Charlotte FC manager. And that was absolutely not the case.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder what will be those roster decisions. Does it change the status of Guzman Corujo at the club? Our best defender in 21, who was not, totally absent in 22. Is he back in the mix now? Does Meram get re-signed? That negotiation has been ongoing. It's a busy week. Like the Charlotte FC is like a duck right now. all calm and smooth up above the surface, and underneath the water, Joe LeBou and Zoran Kornet are just paddling furiously and hoping David Tepper doesn't call them into his office next. Like at this point, like it's crazy, but I think they have what it takes to do it. And we got a lot of questions. I mean, we got a lot of people now that want to know. They already moved on. Like we could sit here and talk about what went wrong for 30 minutes, but I think people kind of know.
Yeah, it's a great question by Aaron. If you could put that back up as well,
for sure.
It's a great photo as well. Beautiful photo there of
that is a great
fiance.
That is a really good profile pic, Aaron Dawes. Congratulations to you both.
Professionally done. And what I'll say, and what I wanted to bring up, and we're going to get into that conversation, Aaron, about the next coach. And I know there's some names already being thrown out there as well. But for me, I want to talk about the timing of this, right? And it's yet again one of those coincidental Charlotte soccer show moments.
Just saying.
Where the Charlotte Soccer Show season in review show publishes on Monday. We lead the episode emphatically, which, by the way, if you haven't listened to the season in review show, it's our latest podcast after this live episode, or if you're listening to this in the podcast feed after, or we've been live, just let it play because it's a really fun end of season in review episode. But how we started that episode is I asked Danny, I said, hey, what's the season grade for Charlotte FC based on where they finished on the table and what the expectations were and the roster was going into the season? And Danny Brams gave it an emphatic D-. And then we went into a Christian Lattanzio conversation, and I feel like you went out of your way to give him a C instead of actually giving him maybe a D.
Yeah,
I think a C was a good grade.
I was polishing that turd for a little bit for sure. I was trying to make some larger point that I forget really what the point of it was.
So this is my way of saying that I think, and I know that you've got the ability to screen share on this show, and I think ultimately what I'd love to do is I'd love to pull up the announcement post on X and just kind of look at some of the reaction and kind of ask ourselves, okay, we felt the way we did on the show. I think typically Charlotte Soccer Show and what we do, we have a really good pulse of the fan base. We really care about what people think about the club, what the prevailing opinion is. And when you've talked to supporters around town, I think what you've realized recently is that people felt kind of indifferent about Christian Lattanzio. Oh, sure, he's going to stick around. Oh, and people have said that he should be fired. There's no doubt. But the people that were screaming that Christian Lattanzio should be fired and sacked from the rooftops 3 weeks ago, they've settled down over the last 10 days or so. They've almost fell into this idea that he was coming back. So here's
right. It was like a sense of resignation.
Yes. So here's the reaction, Danny, right? If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it here, right?
This is Hub likes. I used to pray for times like this.
And so this is the pulse of the fan base. You can see our show statement there. I save the corner flag photography for moments like this. And then, you can go down and you can see we all need to remember who the owner is. And with that, I may never see one of our center backs wandering high in the midfield again. There's a standing ovation there from tremendous friends of the show, Brian Murphy. And people are not upset, Danny. And this is the point. Oh, look, there's someone smoking a celebratory cigar.
It's Pep with the cigar.
And the crowd goes wild. So I think it was really
renewing my tickets right now. That might be the most important response. Can I put the official show on that one live on the?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So, I mean, the pulse of the fan base is so important when it comes to making a decision like this. And when you see this kind of positive reaction on X, that's when as shallow and as basic as that might seem, I think the job of any sports organization is to understand the pulse of the fans and make decisions based on what those paying fans want. Because remember, you can listen to the trailer for Charlotte Soccer Show. Football is nothing without the fans. Right. And without Charlotte FC supporters feeling good about the club and the direction of the club in the future, then it's really hard to operate as a club. So Danny Brams, you see the reaction there. It feels like a new day for Charlotte FC. And do you think that this is the right reaction from the supporters?
I think so.
Did you expect to see this?
Yeah, because Lattanzio, we've talked about it many times. Lattanzio never connected with the fans. He was always chiding us, blaming the fans for cheering too hard or not cheering enough, or criticizing him or criticizing the players, or The mentality comes from the expectations, and maybe we wouldn't lose leads late if the fans weren't making us nervous. All that stuff that he used to say just pisses me off, and now we don't have to hear it ever again. So that's pretty good. I mean, Level Up Luke's in the house. He says we have some time. Morgan White, God bless Morgan White. She's worried about losing Fuchs. I don't think Fuchs is going anywhere. You can see it on the scroll below us. Carol Rogers Walton reporting that the rest of the coaching staff is being retained. Level Up Luke told me a story, actually, and Level Up Luke is he volunteered to jump on the stream, but we said we got it. We appreciate it. But thank you for being here, Luke, always. He told me a story about how he met Fuchs at the Independence game. At the Independence game in Raleigh, he met Fuchs and family and was talking to him. And he was like, yeah, man, whatever happens with whatever happens with Lattanzio, just know that we all support you. And Fuchs was like, whatever happens with Lattanzio, what do you mean? Like, fans don't like him? Like, Fuchs was completely in the bubble, had no idea like that there was any any like anger and like discontent within the fan base.
We know one thing about Christian Fuchs is that no matter what decision was made today, Christian Fuchs is going to say the right things, and I think that's why, and he's going to do the right things, and that's why the fan base has gravitated towards Christian Fuchs as somebody that they trust and that they want to hear speak about situations like this. I want to go back to something that you said, Danny, about Christian Lattanzio and what seemed like his agenda and that was blaming anyone besides himself for late game issues. Right.
For Charlotte this comment from Elevation Jones, Greg Franco, another great profile pic, speaks to exactly what you're saying. He wasn't there at the Meet the Team event. We're at the stadium. Everyone's feeling good, signing autographs. Even Pablo Cisniega is getting like major love from all the fans, and the coach is not even there. Joe and Zorn were like meet and greet, shaking hands, like, and the coach wasn't there. I went to the Atrium Health Performance Park grand opening media event when they invited all the media to come down. Had a great time doing that. It was fun. And when I was there, I hope I'm not like giving inside info, but like they had all these pre-filled out name tags for like members of the club to like. And you had to fill out your own if you were media. So I filled out my own. And I'm looking at some of the other tags that are there, and Lattanzio's name tag is sitting there unclaimed. Like, he wasn't at this event. Like, Zorn was there, Joe was there, everyone was there, and like, so CL was like not showing up at like team events outside of games. He was just very focused. It all fits. He's like living in this world of where he's seeking this platonic ideal of soccer and the way it should be played. And there's no passion, there's no sexiness, there's no like feeling in anything that he's bringing to the game. It's all just cold, calculated system and do the right thing. And that's just not what this town's all about. And it is what it is for me. I'm really happy that we have a chance to go get someone new. And I hope Lattanzio lives a happy life and has a great family. I wish the man no ill will, but
I think what's sad for Christian Lattanzio is that the same issues that we identified as a problem as he was interim manager were the same issues he ended up leaving the job with.
Right.
There was no improvement during the 2023 campaign of actually creating a bond and a relationship with the fan base. There just absolutely wasn't. I can't remember a moment where the fan base became endeared to Christian Lattanzio. I can't remember a moment where Lattanzio said something about the fan base that absolutely won them over. The relationship to me just didn't seem right. And I felt like Christian Lattanzio wasn't making the proper effort and meeting the supporters in the middle. The supporters were going 98% of the way, and Christian Lattanzio was only going 2% of the way to make this relationship happen. I think what he thought was, as football manager of the club, as this protector of soccer in the Queen City, he was the one making sure that the lineup was set. He was the one that was dictating how this club was going to play. He was the one that wanted to dictate exactly what was discussed in and around this club. He was the one that made people want to feel how he did. It just seemed to me that Christian Lattanzio had no interest whatsoever in giving a fuck about what anybody else thought about Charlotte FC. That it was totally his way or the highway. And I think that played out on the pitch throughout the season. And I'll just make one final point, and that is his absolute inability to recognize young players and the impact that they can have in MLS. that this is not a level of play. Like, he knows himself. He told us over and over again, this is not Bayern Munich. This is not Barcelona. This is not Real Madrid. Exactly. It's MLS. It's a place where Kerwin Vargas can step on the field and make an impact. It's a place where Patrick Agyemang can step on the field and have an impact. And just to see him ride that veteran wave, and to in the last 45 minutes of the season, I think I said this to you, and I apologize for this long-winded rant, but I said this to you after the New York Red Bulls game. I think, like, I said, did Christian Lattanzio just sack himself by playing Agyemang in that second half? Because the way that Agyemang looked in that second half of the playoff game, there's only one way that you think after that final whistle hits 90 and Patrick Agyemang takes the microphone in the press conference. You ask yourself, where has he been? Mm-hmm. Why hasn't he been playing? And I think ultimately Christian Lattanzio did this to himself.
Like, it's like you were happy to see Patrick score that goal to try to get us back in the game against Red Bulls, but then you're like, wait a minute, this was on our bench the entire second half of the season when we were getting those draws. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Whether he was on the bench or not, sometimes he wasn't. Sometimes he wasn't even in the squad.
Right, exactly. Sometimes because you had to save him for those Crown Legacy matches. But the commenters I've been just popping up random comments during your rant, which I loved. I was literally, I had the hold up, let him cook meme, like, just going in my head the whole time you were ranted there. I loved it. And I just popped up comments of people who were kind of agreeing with you. Luke mentions the Laddie Daddy movement. That was probably the peak. The Laddie Daddy t-shirts that the Queen's Pitch, that I think Matt Barbie made them, and then Queen's Pitch like popularized them. That was probably the height of Laddie mania, and it was really not much of a mountain. It was more of a pebble than a mountain. So.
Well, and for what it's worth, for the folks that went down the Laddie Daddy road, for the folks that wanted to support the manager, I've got nothing but respect for that, because that kind of positivity, that kind of support, despite maybe the results not going the way that you want it, and maybe the club not being run exactly the way that you want it to be run, I think supporting the actual people as human beings, and this is really important to me. And again, it's why I made the point off the top of the show that Christian Lattanzio is a human being. He has a life. He's got a family, and he's had a very successful career in soccer. But he was never meant to be the manager of Charlotte FC. He was meant to be on Miguel Angel Ramirez's staff. And when MAR got unexpectedly fired during year one for being a complete and total asshole, they needed somebody to step in and be the nice guy. They needed somebody to step in and treat the players in a way that they wanted to
a warm,
stay and
comforting
play.
Embrace of a coach. Yeah, for sure.
That's right.
He was all about his players, for sure. And you're right. And the thing is, he did make players better off the pitch. He's really good in a training session. He's just not the guy that you want on your touchline, making the decisions in the middle of a game. Len Cornacchia with the wordplay. Laddie Daddy is a saddy laddie today. You got to feel like just absolutely brilliant. We love you, Len. Thank you for being here. Imagine this. You can't bring in 35-year-olds to run a system that requires above average fitness and leave all the young guys on the bench. Who would have thought can McLean Robertson be the new coach? I mean, you get it, obviously, right away. And, of course, Joe Garcia has been banging this drum for a long damn time. He's got New York Rangers in his profile pic. So, as a New York sports fan, Joe Garcia doesn't put up with any crap. He's probably been Lattanzio out since 5 games of 2021 season when Charlotte FC didn't even exist. So what can you say? Level Up Luke agrees. Great assistant. Should not have been head coach. I agree with that. Thank you for all our commenters. Do you want to, it's tough to really know. It's tough to throw random names out for a coaching search. I think one that's going to pop right up is Gio Savarese, the former Portland Timbers coach, very established MLS coach who has won MLS Cup, who's got a really good track record, as far as I remember.
That's a great call out. And for what it's worth, I think it's really important. Danny and I now are not saying who we think should get the job, reporting any sources. I think what we're doing at this moment to start this segment of the show is identifying the names that people are throwing out there at the moment.
Yep. And that's
and John Harkes is another one.
John Harkes is out there. I think he's left Greenville, right? John Harkes is a free agent, so it's not like we would need to hire him, to pull him away, excuse me. Level of Luke throws out, dodging the Neville bullet. Phil Neville was just hired by Portland to replace Gio Savarese. Not a guy we would have wanted in our club. He was a failure at Miami. He's just kind of the famous name. Luke mentions Harks. Jesse Marsh, I don't think wants to come back to MLS, but he's out there. Caleb Porter, I would pour a lot of cold water on. He's a former Columbus Crew coach, he's part of the Greg, what's Greg's name? Berhalter. He's part of the Berhalter, Wolf, Josh Wolf, that whole coterie that I don't want anything to do
anybody
with.
that's involved currently with the United States men's national team, I'm out.
He's just from that branch of trees. And Caleb Porter, very underwhelmingly managed Columbus Crew the last couple of years, and they have one of the best collections of talent, and their results were bad, so I would not want him. This is interesting for Matt Livingston. This is such a big chunk of text, I'm gonna duck under it. But Marcelo Gallardo is a great name that I have not seen. This is a fresh take from Matt Livingston, sort of different than what the rest of us are saying. Marcelo Gallardo is Argentinian, former coach of River Plate. So we know, I don't know, the Futbolista might not like it to bring a River Plate man in here. Her Boca love might set the internet on fire yet again. But River Plate guy, Marcelo Gallardo, he's coached some of the best young players. If you watch Manchester City much, they have this guy, Julian Alvarez, who used to play for River Plate in Argentina, who's like a superstar, one of my favorite players. Gallardo developed him, would be a good coach to bring in for young guys. Give us a South American pipeline. Maybe bring in, Copetti hasn't really worked out as an Argentinian import, but there are really good players in that league. And that's where Thiago Almada came from for Atlanta. That's where Miguel Almiron came from.
Okay. But you have to hire a manager that is connected with the sporting director. And the sporting director, Zoran Krneta, the way that he operates and runs this club is through European pipelines. He does not use South American pipelines. I don't think a coach from South America is the right kind of coach to pair with someone like Zoran Krneta, who is super hyper focused on Europe, and which leads me to the next one, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Okay, so Alicia Lalone throws it out there. McLean is throwing it out there. Someone said, I just wanted to address this. There was a comment earlier that someone had a little conspiracy theory, which, it's McLean. I'm still convinced that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was supposed to be a secret, his visit, and someone leaked it. I can comprehensively refute that conspiracy theory, even though I love him. I'm a huge conspiracist, but Joe LeBou mentioned Ole's visit himself standing at a microphone, at a press conference for the AHPP opening. So that wasn't something that they were necessarily trying to keep secret. Ole was making a big deal. He had visited DC United and multiple clubs saying, please hire me. So I don't think Ole is the answer. I'm really anti-Ole, but would you prefer to make the case? I don't know. What do you think?
I'm not going to make the case for anything. I think whether he's the right manager or not for MLS, you look at somebody like a Wayne Rooney and you say, well, did that work here in MLS? But Wayne Rooney did not have the coaching pedigree. He did not have the experience that Ole had, at a level like Manchester United. So for me, I think if you ask me to read the tea leaves here, I think he is by far the front runner, and he is the first phone call that is going to happen for this club. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, based on the reporting in the past, based on his knowledge of the facility, based on the ability for David Tepper to use his wallet and make a splash higher and to build some buzz around this franchise, I think he is by far and away the top candidate for Charlotte FC.
Please no. I can't handle Ollie at the wheel, man. You remember that tweet we showed earlier that said, I just renewed my season tickets on this news of this firing? The hiring would make me reconsider my season tickets. Let's just say that. I'm sorry. I'm just not interested in Ollie whatsoever. I do think that
for what it's worth, I'm not convinced that I am either. But I mean, Danny, it's right out in front of you. It's right in front of your face. You got to
right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. You're telling me, all the tea leaves. I know you love those tea leaves. But how about let's just. I would say it doesn't have to be Gio Savarese, but to me, the move is go hire someone with a lot of MLS pedigree. I think you want someone who's previously coached at MLS, because that's just not something we've had in our buildings before. And if there's someone who can work with Zoran, which I think is important, 100%. Lattanzio and Zoran never really clicked. They worked together, but they weren't, partners. So if you can work with Zoran and bring the MLS experience, that's what I want to go for. Luke is showing out John Harkes, but there he is. This is the name that I want to hear you talk about, because this is the name you were throwing out 9 months ago as far as what to do. I mean, Mike Jeffries, I hear Luke Beadle saying that, there's no level up from Luke when he says Jeffries would be a caretaker manager.
Well, let me just
the battle is raging in the comments, Johnny. Where do you stand?
Let me just correct that. Christian Lattanzio was a caretaker manager, legitimately. And our next manager will not be a caretaker manager. Right. Our next manager will be hired to be the full-time head coach of this club. Okay, Christian Lattanzio was a caretaker manager, and they had no other option but to bring him around and give him a chance. And now this club will actually hire a manager who signs on the dotted line to be the full-time manager of this club. So get that caretaker bullshit out of here, okay? And so number 2, Jesse Marsch it fascinates me because of his style of play. It's exciting. It's exhilarating. You basically become New York Red Bulls if you hire Jesse Marsch. You basically become Leeds United if you hire Jesse Marsch. What that means is it's front foot pressing, exciting soccer, but you're going to give up a shit ton of goals as well. So maybe not the best thing for Charlotte FC, because this is a club that already gives up a ton of goals. But Mike Jeffries, let's go to Mike Jeffries. And we've interviewed Mike on the show twice this season. He's been at the helm here in Charlotte for the Independents for 10 seasons. His 10th season, will be next year.
He's the only manager the Independents have ever had.
10 years, and he took the Independents to its first final this past Sunday. A final that we haven't talked about that on the show yet, and man, I'm still hurting from that final, by the way. Yeah, that was a gut punch on Sunday night.
Yeah.
In that final.
That was going to be our next episode till this happened.
Yes. Yeah. So, but cheers to the Independents and the unbelievable season that they've had. Can Mike Jeffries go from the USL level straight to MLS here in Charlotte? I think personally that he could. I think that he could handle the job and do the job well. Do I think that Charlotte FC would actually hire him? No.
Yeah. I mean, he was an assistant for Bob Bradley at the Chicago Fire, right? Like way back in MLS 1.0. We talked about his history there. He has men's national team experience and scouting experience, only manager the Independents have ever had, all of that. We get it. I think he could. I don't think he will. I mean, let's be honest. The Charlotte FC has shown no interest in really having a strong symbiotic relationship with Charlotte Independents. That's just, I mean, they don't hate each other, but they're not friends. So it is.
And for what it's worth, this would be a nice, obviously bump in salary for somebody like Mike Jeffries, an opportunity for him to towards the end of his coaching career. And not saying that he's like, at the very end of his coaching career, but he's a veteran. He's been doing this job for a while. He's had a career in soccer. If Mike Jeffries decided to leave the Independents for Charlotte FC, it would certainly be a decision to make money. But yesterday, the USL just announced a multi-year partnership with CBS Sports, USL Championship, USL League One being broadcast through the 2027 season. There's stability surrounding that league right now. There's stability surrounding the Charlotte Independents. The new women's team, the Super League team, is launching in 2024 as well. So there's some positive momentum around the Independents right now. And we mentioned the final. So it just feels like if it's a time to jump for Mike Jeffries somewhere else, it feels like a monetary decision, not a decision that is, this is a much better job. And Charlotte FC is a better job than the Independents. There's no doubt about that, because it pays more. If Charlotte, if the Independents paid the same salary to their head coach than Charlotte FC, would it be a better job? Maybe.
Yeah. Ike Gordon says Tepper will just hire Frank Reich to manage Charlotte FC in the Panthers offseason. Absolutely amazing.
For what it's worth, that typo is amazing. I like the idea of calling Pepper. Hey,
David Pepper. It makes me think of Julius Peppers, but yeah, no doubt. We've reached the portion of this conversation where the long shot speculative hire names start being thrown out. Vanni Sartini would be awesome. He got a red card the other night in Vancouver's playoff loss. I don't think we're going to poach him from Vancouver, but you talk about a guy who would connect with the fans. He would definitely be the one. Nuno Espirito Santo, In nomine Patris, Fils, Spiritus Sancti, Boondock Saints, all that. I don't think Nuno's there. I don't think you want Nuno as a former Tottenham guy, manager, right? Didn't he manage Tottenham?
He did have a short spell. He actually, in his first month as Tottenham manager, just like Ange Postecoglou did, he won Manager of the Month. It didn't last very long.
Geslin throws out Lampard, and then here it is. Here's the one I wanted for you. Let's go get Big Ange. Who cares about Tottenham Hotspur? He's not. Who cares that he's got the best team in the Premier League, and he's going to make a run at taking Pep down this year. Let's bring him over to MLS and bring Big Ange.
Okay, hear me out here. This is the best comment of the show. Not because I support Tottenham, not because I do like what Ange Postecoglou has brought to Spurs, but because if you added a couple words to that sentence by Wyatt there, a couple words to that comment, let's get someone like Postecoglou, right? Let's get a manager who loves to enjoy their football, that is so interested in connecting with the fans, that can sit behind a microphone and encourage the supporters, that can sit behind the microphone and answer the tough questions in a really, really smart and intelligent way. Ange Postecoglou, I think, is somebody that Charlotte FC, someone like Ange Postecoglou, makes up for Christian Lattanzio's deficiencies.
Yeah, if you don't follow or you're just not paying attention, I'm not a Spurs fan. I'm an Arsenal fan, and Spurs are like our Derby Day rivals. So I hate Spurs on one level, but I just don't have a lot of capacity for hate in my heart anymore in my mid-40s. But although I can hate on occasion. But the one thing I love about Ange is Tottenham played Chelsea the other day, got 2 red cards. I actually wasn't watching this game. I was working, but I saw the red cards were controversial or whatever. You can tell me what you thought. But what I did see the post-game comments where Ange Postecoglou, basically what happened was Tottenham was down 9 men versus 11, and they were attacking. They were on front foot. They were like sending guys forward down 2 men. And I just thought to myself, everyone was like, what is he doing? Ange is crazy. Ange is a madman. He's losing the points. He's blowing it here. And then they asked him about it after the game. He's like, I figured we're down 2, man. Let's have a crack. Let's go. That's the manager we need. Someone like that. We're not going to get Big Ange, but someone with the attitude of, hey, we're down 9 versus 11. Let's freaking go at him. Let's take it to him. Let's play front foot soccer. Let's entertain our fans. Even though Tottenham lost that game to Chelsea with the 9 versus 11, and the counter pressing, whatever was cited as maybe a reason they did, but still, they entertained their fans, and they didn't turtle up for 90 minutes after the red cards and just try to just barely hold on to something that they might have never had in the first place. Let's go get something. Let's go take what's ours. Let's go do let's take this league by storm like we haven't yet. In our first 2 years, we've just kind of been in the league. We just kind of been here. So let's grab this league by the scruff of the neck and write our freaking name, our legacy. We're the freaking crown, baby. Let's go get a manager who can lead us there instead of just floating, treading water and talking about the system all the time.
I just want to address this comment, Danny. Matt Livingston, he says there's a huge gulf in class between USL 1 and MLS. I don't disagree with that comment. But I think that at a player level, it's not as different as you think. I think that the top teams in USL 1 have some guys on their rosters that could play in MLS, right? I think top to bottom, I think 1 through 11, sure. But I think there's 3 or 4 guys on each USL 1 squad that could potentially make a roster spot in MLS.
And don't forget that Charlotte and Pence are essentially a USL championship club playing in USL.
That's right. That's exactly.
They share a city with MLS, and they're just trying to save money. So
yeah, that's right. But very well said, Danny. I think ultimately you're spot on with this assessment, and I think it's a brand new day for the club, right? And I think that's kind of we'll see this manager search play out, and it's another brand new day for the club. But I think there's one thing that I want to address with you, and I want to get your take on to figure out whether if this is an issue.
I love it.
And because when you're a new club, you're building a culture, you are trying to let people know, not just in your community here in Charlotte, around the Carolinas and the United States and abroad. Remember, these games are on Apple. You can become a supporter of Charlotte FC from anywhere in the world if you wanted to. And you can watch every match and you can enjoy it. And you should, quite frankly. But
I know people who do.
It's 2 for 2. 2 for 2, Danny. 2 managers, both at the club for less than a year as a manager.
Yeah. I like the saying of, we will start our 3rd season with our 3rd manager.
Right. And there's clubs, for instance, Watford in the Premier League is a great example of a club that has a reputation for just sacking the shit out of every manager that they have. And I'm not saying that Charlotte FC should be concerned about culturally or publicly becoming a club that is known for that. But when you're 0 for 2, you probably should hit on number 3.
Yeah. Because like I joked about it earlier, and we've shared many laughs with Joe and with Zorn. We like the guys on this show. We're fans, and we want to see them succeed. But like eventually the knock comes on your office. You're not the one calling someone into your office. You're getting called into somebody's office eventually. So I think they know that, and I think they're motivated even way more than we are to make it work, because their heads are on the line now.
Yeah, one thing
I would put my head on the line. Len Korniacki says we should throw our hat in the ring. How about that? Co-managers. MLS club hires 2 local podcasters to take over as co-managers of the club. What a story.
Yeah. You know how that will end up? It'll end up like Karol Swiderski and Enzo Capetti at the end of the season fighting over who will get the PK. Danny and I exactly. Trying to put in the starting 11, just like debating
I've got
who
the
should
ball
play.
Under my arm. I've got the mic under my, like, you can't.
I think you unplugged with whatever you did on that microphone there, turned it off or something.
I muted myself on accident. Yeah,
but you're not concerned yet about this idea that it's 2 for 2. Both managers don't last a year at the club, and when I mean year, I mean like a calendar year as head manager. Maybe one of them lasted maybe Lattanzio lasted like 12 months as a manager. I'm not sure, but it doesn't feel like a full calendar year for Christian Lattanzio as manager of the club. Are you concerned about David Tepper and this organization kind of getting started on the wrong foot and this kind of being an indictment on the way they're running the club?
I mean, I agree with you, and I agree with the Tifos. Cornetta's really up against the wall to get this one right. Still a new club, but the next manager has to be a hit. I agree with all of that. And I just think that in the way this sport works is, how it is. Great clubs sometimes the manager can be secondary. Like we can get to where we're getting. We just don't need the manager standing in our way like Lattanzio was. So you can turn things around rapidly. I look at Cincinnati. It's not a matter of sure, the numbers do start to add up and you hate it and you don't want that body count of being the club that sacks his manager all the time. Obviously, you'd hate to be in this position again next year for sure. We'd hate to be sitting here 12 months from now having the same episode, obviously, although it has been fun. But ultimately, just hire the right person, and then I'm not too worried about that reputation damage of being 3 managers in 3 years. I think that'll sort itself out if you go win the Supporters Shield like Cincinnati did.
And in the MLS, you can turn things around. And Cincinnati went from 0 to hero. Charlotte FC made the play-in game. Charlotte FC does have a bit of a foundation. Has a captain with a ton of big game experience and somebody that wants to be here next season. So one other topic that's really important to discuss when it comes to the decision to part ways with Christian Lattanzio. By the way, I just wanted to say that I appreciate the language that is used when clubs make a decision like this, because you have to use the right language. And when Charlotte FC parts ways with Christian Lattanzio, to me, that can mean a number of different things. It doesn't say fired. It doesn't say sacked. It says part ways. And I wonder, how does Christian Lattanzio feel about this decision? Do you think that maybe he feels a little bit of relief about this decision today?
Probably a little bit. I mean, what's Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Safety, food and shelter, love, and comfort, so like, he's pretty, he's still got all that. It's not a danger to his life and livelihood. He's still probably fairly financially secure of a lifetime and working in a sport that pays fairly well. He's got his family, probably disappointed in the way it worked out, but he certainly he can't be surprised. He can't be like, oh my God, how did this happen? So I mean, yeah.
And my point is, like, it feels amicable. It feels like a decision that has been made. And I'm not sure Christian Lattanzio stormed out of that office. I'm not sure that he's not going to enjoy his vacation this off season and kind of think about what the next step for him is in his career. He loves the game, clearly, and I think there's many avenues for Christian Lattanzio to get back in the business in a coaching role. Maybe not as a manager, but what I wanted to ask about was Karol Swiderski, and this is where I was leading to, Danny. Is Karol Swiderski is somebody that might
down the path,
that when a new manager takes this job, the new manager will be dealing with the fact that Karol Swiderski has been openly discussing his desire to go back to Europe, to potentially leave the club in this new transfer, in this next transfer window starting January 1st. Is there any way that Charlotte FC could hire a manager to convince Karol Swiderski to stay?
Extremely unlikely. Maybe if it was that guy Sousa who coached him at Poland, who loves him or whatever. But no, I would be shocked if Karol comes back to the United States in the next 18 months, if not beyond. I think he's in Poland training right now to stay fresh. He's training with like a small club to stay fresh for international window. International window is next week. He'll play 2 qualifiers. It'll be Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year holiday. And then the January transfer window opens. I think he just goes straight from the international window to his home and stays in Europe. And I don't think he's come back to Charlotte or the United States anytime soon. So I think he's gone. And it's really all about building about Copetti, which is something we've talked about on the show for sure. It's like, that's really like the next manager needs to be someone who can unlock Copetti, who was an absolute failure as a designated player in year 1 in MLS. It happens. Yeah, there's guys who have failed in year 1 and come back and been good DPs in year 2, so it can definitely happen. And that's what we need to focus on for sure. Here's something that's funny that you would have thought. We got all these comments, right? We got like shout out to the Tifos, best listening audience in the whole damn business. 50 to 100 people have been checking in from time to time throughout this stream. That's pretty awesome since we just popped it up live, like with 20 minutes notice. I'm loving all of it. But the one name I haven't seen in all these names that have been thrown out are the guy that everyone was clamoring for a month ago, Jose Tavares. He's already in-house. How come nobody in the chat threw out Jose's name as a potential hire to elevate from the legacy? I'm just interested in that. It kind of pops in my mind because it made me it was conspicuous that he was not mentioned.
Well, if I could just answer your question directly, it's because he lost to Columbus Crew 2 at home in the first match of the of the playoffs, when he had clearly the better squad and one of the best players on the first team playing at striker that entire game. They couldn't muster a goal, right? Wasn't it 1-0 at the end of that match?
Yeah.
Could muster a goal in the playoff match against Columbus Crew 2, and MLS Next Pro finishes the season in first place, and then really just a really disappointing playoff match. I think if he goes and makes a run in the playoffs, Tavares, and wins MLS Next Pro, then yes, that name is certainly rising to the top of a lot of people's list. But it just felt like he had to do something with Crown Legacy in that first season, win some silverware, win a trophy, and bring that back to the club. And it would have been a hire. But just because he loses that playoff game doesn't mean it's not a realistic option for the job.
What about this question?
Well, this is a great question from Greg Franco. Copetti was CL's guy. Can you pop that back up?
Oh,
does this increase the chances that he is also gone? Another DP spot opens. The answer to that is absolutely yes. And if I can hit on that in just a second, because I do want to just talk about Tavares for a second and make the point about Patrick Agyemang. And Tavares is the manager that wanted Patrick Agyemang. He's the one that famously said, "I can make Pat fly And just like Christian Lattanzio was connected with Enzo Capetti, Jose Tavares is connected with Patrick Agemo. So keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind.
You brought it all full circle, brother. I love it. That's what we do.
But as far as Enzo Capetti, what have you and I said? These two are attached at the hip, aren't they, Danny Brand? I'm concerned about Enzo Capetti's future here in Charlotte now.
I mean, if we kept the receipt and could get full price paid back, I think we'd probably just would send him back and say, you know, like you clearly your heart never left Rossing Club, Enzo, and Rossing Club. I'm sure would love to have you back. If we could just get that money back that we paid for you, we'll gladly send you back. And that's, again, that would not be personal. That would be strictly business as well, because I'm not sure he's a fit for what we're trying to do here. Enzo has some of the worst main character syndrome ever, but I don't think that's going to happen. We can't get him back, so I could see him being sold, but I don't know who would buy him in order for us to sell at a profit necessarily. So I think it's like he's more like, if he was going to leave, he'd probably leave next summer, sort of as teams were like gearing up to start their next European seasons, or maybe in the middle of the Mexican or Argentinian seasons, he could go back. I don't know.
One thing that he's got going for him now, from a value point of view, from an asset point of view, is that he's healthy. Is that he finished the season healthy, and that you can make a sale in January and confidently say that I'm selling you a player that is fit and ready to start next week.
That's true.
And if you fast forward that to summer 2024, who knows what Enzo Capetti's health and his injury situation
playing on that turf.
Time. Exactly right. So, it's almost like this, Danny. It's almost like if we had one of the richest owners in global football. It's almost like if Charlotte FC had a benefactor like that, where you could just clear the deck. You could just say, Karol Swiderski, see you later. Enzo Capetti, see you later. Camille Jóźwiak, nice knowing you. And you can bring on a new manager, and you can say,
Camille, Carol's got some luggage over there. Can you go pick it up, please, and take it to the plane?
You can hire a new manager, and if you had an owner that was one of the richest owners in football, I'm just saying, if you had that, and you brought in a new manager, and you could tell that manager, hey, here's $50 million, go sign 3 DPs.
Yeah,
I mean, if you had an owner that was willing to spend, that had that kind of money, then something like that is certainly possible. So, I mean, the Pandora's box is officially open with this move. The future of the club, the players specifically. I think if you're a player for Charlotte FC right now, you got to be looking around the room, asking yourself, where do I fit into this next project?
Right. Yeah.
As well. And I think this is a decision
Bronico woke up and saw this news and like, well, time to go work out. Again.
Well, he's grinding. He's grinding for that. Here's what's going to happen. That whoever's hired as the next manager for Charlotte FC, they're going to have a preconceived notion about who they like on the squad.
Right.
And they're going to set up training and oversee training for about a couple weeks when they start the new gig with the guys who are already here. And after 2 weeks, this new manager is going to look at one of his assistants and go, son of a bitch, this Bronico kid doesn't fucking quit. What am I supposed to do with this guy? Do we have to play this guy? Like, he doesn't stop. I think that conversation will be had for sure. But it's just the trickle down effect here, and that's where I wanted to end on the show, Danny, because we've been having a great show. So almost an hour live. So if you want to get and sneak anything else on the back end of this, please go ahead and do this. But I just want to know how far does this trickle down effect go? Right? Like, yeah, we're talking about DP players, but we're talking about a club that is losing a manager and losing a philosophy and losing a system and creating an uncertain future.
I predicted that Lattanzio wouldn't be fired, and I was wrong. So that shows what my predictions can be worth sometimes. But I do like to think that I can read tea leaves almost as well as you, my friend. So the tea leaves are waiting to be played out because we need to see who the manager hire is. We've had some people in the chat saying, I hope they didn't fire him without knowing who they were going to hire next. I tend to agree with that. I think you should know which direction you want to go in. I pretty much think that they probably do. That's why they took so long to sort of They waited, they got everything in place. And then once the plan's in place, drop the eggs. I wouldn't be shocked if I would be certain we have a manager before Thanksgiving. Let's just say that. I think we will go out and hire a manager in the next 2.5 weeks before the holiday season. I believe that we will. So that's my first.
But before you think that Charlotte FC will sign a manager before MLS Cup final?
Yes, because I don't think anyone in the playoffs is a candidate right now.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
So I think so. If not by Thanksgiving, a billion% by Christmas. I will set up a dunk tank in Romare Bearden Park, and people can come dunk me in the water if we don't have a manager by Christmas. All right, but I really think it'll happen within the next 2 weeks because
whether you're right or wrong, let's get the dunk tank set up either way.
For sure, that sounds fun. For sure. Instead of throwing baseballs or softballs, you have to kick soccer balls at the dunk tank. You have to have some good aim, to actually hit that plunger. But so I think that'll happen, and then that is going to who it is going to tell us who it is. But we talked about Copetti potentially leaving. It's possible. I, for one, don't think that will happen. I think Carroll and Camille both leave, and I think Copetti stays, and I think Ajman gets a lot more playing time. And I think we start to build around even potentially a double striker attack. I think there's new manager comes in, maybe wants to play a 4-4-2, maybe wants to have Copetti and Ajman working off of each other with a true number 10 feeding them. Who knows what could happen? Maybe get a little diamond midfield. Diamonds are the Crown's best friend.
I mean, here you're talking about Copetti and Ajman partnered up top together. It's a really interesting proposition because you're talking about two players that have unbelievable strength. Two players that can just really command double teams in the box. And I think a new manager could look at both of those players and say, I think that's a really nice foundation, especially with the veteran midfielders that can tuck in behind and potentially play and offer them really nice service. I think I would be a little bit concerned about Enzo Copetti's ability to actually dribble the ball and connect in that situation. I think Patrick Ajman is actually more advanced as an on-the-ball player compared to Enzo Copetti, which is kind of pathetic, to be honest, if you're someone like Enzo Copetti on that deal and Patrick Ajman, who makes $78,000, is better than you. But that's just where we are as a club right now. And it's fascinating, though. It's exciting to think about.
Yeah. I mean, it's a new day. It's a new era. It's not the news we expected we wake up to hear, and to be honest, absolutely thrilled that we could. It just shows what this fan base is capable of, that we could pull this off and have this big, huge hour-long discussion with all the people and bring people together. It shows how engaged people are, despite Charlotte is a soccer city and the social currency is so strong. Hopefully someone inside of AHPP is still one of the, dozen and a half or so people that are here on the end of the stream watching, because I know someone in there has been watching all along and listening. So all I can say is the possibilities are endless. It's unlimited potential. Anything could happen. This is almost like we're not happy about the fact that we've put 2 years of results on paper and on film of mediocre soccer from this club, but all that doesn't matter. Right now, we have a fresh start, a chance to completely wipe the slate clean while still having a little bit of a sense of who we are and what we can do. And I just think the sky's the limit. Just hire the right new manager, and there's no end to what we can achieve next year.
And there's no end to the stream of content that is going to be coming from us at the Charlotte Soccer Show. It was going to be a bit of a quiet couple months here on the show. We were going to settle into the offseason, follow the offseason calendar, see what the roster moves look like. But all of a sudden that has gone into hyperspeed.
We keep telling each other, we need to take a little bit of a break. The show's so fun, but we just need to step back pull back for a few weeks to get ready. And then the club just won't let it happen. Independence and FC, they won't let us slow down. So,
I think, and one of the things I really love about this show, and maybe the TIFOs have figured it out and they have started listening to the show backwards, but towards the end of the show is where you end up getting really good stuff because you like to reward the people who've been hanging out for a while. And for me, it was so interesting because, I've been, The Charlotte Soccer Show has been a huge passion project for us. These first 2 seasons have been unbelievable. Just from a coverage point of view, we've had so much fun. From an access point of view, we've been able to talk to people at the club, at both clubs, Charlotte Independence as well, and we've been able to develop a network of friends and colleagues in this community. And I think frankly, I'm so glad that you gave Carol props at the top of the show here, because she's somebody that's doing a great job as a reporter on the Charlotte FC beat. But I've kind of identified the opportunity for us in this situation, for Charlotte Soccer Show to be able to enhance our coverage and thinking about 2024. And that's what I've been doing, Danny, thinking about what other content can we create? How can we serve our audience? And how can we really make Charlotte Soccer Show and our coverage of Charlotte FC and soccer in this community, Charlotte Independence, all the college teams in town, how do we bring that more regularly to the audience? And I've been working really hard on that. And this morning I was really working hard on that when I opened up a new tab and I saw Christian Lattanzio was sacked as Charlotte FC manager. And I thought to myself, wow, I guess this plan is going to play starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you can count on Charlotte Soccer Show, that is, to be the place where we're going to be on top of this manager search. We're going to be on top of the MLS offseason calendar here. We're going to be figuring out what this roster looks like. And all of a sudden, 2024 has just turned into the most anticipated season in Charlotte FC history, because, the first year launching a club out of COVID, a roster barely being ready before the start of the season, didn't go well. Second season, had an interim manager at the helm, lost a player, died in training camp, Anton Walks, somebody that will go down as a legend of this club, and somebody that was unbelievably missed. And it made the second year just like, no matter how much success this club had in year 2, there was just always that pit in your stomach that was, man, there was Anton Walks. It'd be great if he was here, and he's not. That stark reality is sobering for sure. And now all of a sudden, the club decides to hit the reset button and recognizes that the first 2 years probably have not gone the way we expected them to. And now year 3, we're gonna make a new hire, and we're potentially going to sign some new DPs, and we're going to do this thing all over again, knowing the mistakes that we've made and understanding how to get better. And that, to me, screams a recipe for success.
You said it. I couldn't put it any better myself, man. Beautiful.
He's Danny Brams. Danny, you've been great on this show, man. I have to say that you're going to be the guy that is all over this manager search. You are. I mean, you're the one that has the knowledge of these managers.
Bruce Almighty, yeah.
So we're going to be talking a lot here, as we do every single day. But we're gonna make sure that we cover this manager search. That Danny Brams has his ear to the ground. He knows where the whispers are coming from, and maybe we'll even bring you some interviews. We'll bring you some interviews from across the MLS landscape. Maybe some national media voices who want to come on the show and let us know who they think could be a really nice fit for manager at Charlotte FC. Maybe we'll get the opportunity to speak to Zoran Krneta this offseason about his job with Charlotte FC and his role in hiring this next manager before or after the hire is made. And I will promise you this: there's one goal to the Tifos that I have this entire offseason. There's only one thing that matters, and this is the start of something new, is that whenever this new manager is hired, the rite of passage is to be on the Charlotte Soccer Show. We're going to make sure that we talk to this manager after the manager is hired. We're going to make sure that happens in some way, shape, or form before the start of the 2024 season. So keep it here. Danny Brams, have a great Wednesday. It's great to see you unexpectedly on a Wednesday morning, November 8th. Just a beautiful fall Wednesday in the QC, Danny.
That's what it's all about, man. Thanks for being here, Johnny. Thank you for hosting. Thanks. I hope this is an episode people can go and watch back a couple of times also when we do hire the new manager, or maybe a year from now. Just think about what we were all thinking. This is a very nice historical document. And I mean, unless you got something more to say, I think I'm ready to sign off here. I got a special sign off for this special episode.
Go for it.
Like always, arrivederci, baby.